If you would have told me about a year ago that I would be getting a sequel series to Inuyasha, I would have laughed. I straight up would have laughed, because in all of these years I've been watching anime, of all these years I've been, a content creator on YouTube, I never expected to get more Inuyasha content, because before I ever even dreamed of being where I'm at right now, being able to even talk about anime and manga, I watched Inuyasha, and it was honestly one of those series that I've always held close to my heart. It's very dear to me. It's something that I remember kind of got me in to the romance genre, and even discovering stuff like Bleach, One Piece, and countless other series I watched afterwards to this very day. It's kind of something that really made me appreciate and grow to love anime. At the time of me watching Inuyasha many years ago, like around 2008 or 9, I remember watching Spice and Wolf right before it, and then eventually I was looking for a romance series, and I found Inuyasha, and obviously it's definitely more than romance, but I found Inuyasha, and I remember really enjoying this series. I remember there was like 167 episodes of the original Inuyasha. I could be wrong about the actual number, but I know there was over 100 episodes. And then I remember I waited many, many years for the Inuyasha continuation. For instance, the final act, the final season of Inuyasha that we waited to get animated for many, many years afterwards, because at the time when the original Inuyasha came to a close, we were left on a cliffhanger. We're like, is that it? Are we going to ever get the final conclusion of the story, the end of Inuyasha and Kagome's, story? And I, at the time, didn't really know a manga existed. It's before I really even started to read manga, honestly, and eventually, I did discover there was a manga about a few months after I finished Inuyasha and I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and I decided to sit down and read it, and I was just like, holy crap, this is crazy. I would love to see this animated, and years passed, and it finally did happen. I was like, this is amazing, and ever since then, I was satisfied. I was satisfied with the conclusion. I don't think Inuyasha is like the best series of all time, but it is definitely something that I hold very dear to me. It's like a childhood friend, honestly. It's something I hold in high regard, honestly, with like stuff like Spice and Wolf, Shakugan no Shana, and other series I've watched in the past. And I know many might not agree that these are like the best series of all time, but I love them. And getting to the conclusion of the story, I was satisfied. But even then, I always wished I could have known more. I always wished, like, I could have seen the after story with Kagome and Inuyasha, kind of how they would react as actually a couple. I always wanted to know that, and this announcement came as a surprise, but a welcome surprise. I know many might be quick to label Inuyasha's sequel, like Yashahime, as like, oh no, it's a milking of the series. It's, something that is, not supposed to be here. Why aren't you leaving the series where it's at, and why are you having to continue it? I know many are going to probably say that upon this series coming out, and I can understand for good reason. There is a lot of series that have come out over the years that continue stories that honestly shouldn't be continued. Let's think about, Naruto. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that like Boruto. I'm not going to hate on you if you like Boruto. If you like it, you like it. Go for it. I'm not going to tell you to dislike the series, but personally, I'm in one of those people that think that, Naruto is done, and I don't really care about Boruto. It's an added addition, and I think it's cool. If people want to continue with the story, they can watch it or read it. But I'm in one of those boats to where I'm like, I think it's not really needed. And I can understand if people think the same thing about this sequel, Yashahime, because it's like, you don't really need it, because you got the conclusion of the Shikan Jewel and Inuyasha and Kagome's story with Kikyo and all of them in the, Inuyasha's original series, so you don't really need this. But I'm one of those that are like, I want to see. I'm curious. I'm curious to see where this goes. And even if Yashahime doesn't turn out to be relatively good, like it turns to be really bad, I won't let this series really diminish my love and enjoyment for the original Inuyasha. That's not going to happen. I'm just watching this as a little extra added addition that I'm going to kind of cherish. So anyways, let's get right into it. If you have never watched Inuyasha, then you can't watch this series. This is not a remake by any means, and this is obviously not its own separate story. This is legitimately a continuation of the original Inuyasha, sadly. So if you're new, you can't really watch this. But I will say, however, if you're wanting a really good shonen, like, okay, not one of the best, but a good one, a good watch or read Inuyasha. I really cannot recommend it enough. It's so good. And I know there's some problems with it, but it has a really iconic villain as well. Naraku is such an iconic villain from Inuyasha, and I do wonder how Naraku is going to be used in this. Like, I wonder if he's gonna pop up again or if he's permanently gone. We'll see where it goes, because when it comes to Inuyasha, there was always memes about Naraku in the original show, that he was someone that could never die, someone that would constantly come back and be the main villain throughout the entire story, and he was, and I do appreciate that to a certain extent, but some people thought Naraku, overstayed his welcome, and seeing how this series is continuing, I do wonder if he might somehow pop up again. We did even have a mention of him in this first episode, so yeah. But anyways, coming into this first episode, I instantly felt so nostalgic. Just seeing the characters anime again, it reminded me as if I was 12 again. If I was 13, 12, watching this show, I was just so blown away. I was just like, wait a minute, like, this feels so similar. It feels the same. Like, yeah, it's Inuyasha, but it's just like, the art design and everything felt just like how Inuyasha is supposed to feel, and I'm just like, holy crap, like, this is my childhood. Like, I know people, when Dragon Ball Super came out, people got emotional, and I got emotional too when Dragon Ball Super came out, because Dragon Ball was my childhood, but Inuyasha is also my childhood, and seeing this, I have similar emotions. Just as Dragon Ball Super, I have that for this, Inuyasha, and I'm just like, coming into this and seeing how the art style is just so reminiscent of the original, I'm just like, this is automatically making me so happy. I had a big goofy smile on my face while watching this. But on top of all that, even the music, the soundtrack being the iconic themes and battle themes, etc. from the original, I'm just like, oh my goodness, nostalgia, which makes so much sense, because, let's be honest, this series is for the fans. It's for the Inuyasha fans. It's not for newcomers. It's not to get people to watch and get into Inuyasha. This is for those original fans of Inuyasha, a nice little addition to the original story, and they know what they're doing, especially doing the little callbacks, doing the iconic moments of, Sit Boy and all that. There's a lot of things that this first episode does that just reminds you of the original, and I greatly appreciate that. Which, speaking of this episode, apparently most of this episode is actually based on the epilogue. I vaguely do remember reading this many years ago, like this chapter in the manga, like this epilogue chapter, because this came out around like 2011, I believe, or 2012. I remember that the content within this episode came out as a manga chapter, and it wasn't necessarily like, new stuff, like, Yashahime. Like, majority of the content within this isn't for Yashahime. It was just an epilogue chapter that never got an OVA and never got a episode for itself, but I'm glad to see that content actually adapted for this first episode, because it's a nice way to kind of settle fans into the series after many years of really not thinking much about Inuyasha, not really in the back of your mind, because seeing Kagome again, seeing Inuyasha, Sesshomaru, seeing Jaken, seeing Rin, all of the characters, all the iconic characters, seeing them again, it's nice. It allows you to kind of get settled back into the world of Inuyasha, kind of how things work, how demon slaying works, etc. And I appreciate this little adaptation of the epilogue, because we needed this, definitely, to kind of not be like, okay, they're trying to just add new characters right off the bat, and we don't really care about them. We want to see the old original cast first, and that's exactly what we got. But it seems like next episode is finally going to be the true new content of what, Yashahime is about. So I am excited to see, the kids of Kagome and Inuyasha. I wonder how that's actually going to go, and Sesshomaru as well, one of his kids. We'll see. But okay. Anyways, in terms of content-wise of this episode, it's mostly just like I said, reintroducing the cast in the world, and seeing the typical, taking down, a demon that is terrorizing the village. It's the standard formula of the original Inuyasha, at least when it came to the episodic episodes, which I don't really hate by any means, but it is a very traditional episode, and on top of that, you get to see kind of where Kagome and Inuyasha's relationship has grown to a certain extent, and majority of this episode is 6 months after the events of the original. And then the stuff with the kids, where you see the half-demon and all that, that is set apparently a decade after the events of Inuyasha. So we have like a time skip going on. We have a huge time skip, which makes a lot of sense. So we have actually technically two. We have the 6-month time skip with majority of the content of the episode, but then the stuff with the new characters, that is a 10-year time skip. So it can kind of get a little confusing. Like the contents of this episode, some that's coming into it, might instantly assume that maybe everything that happened in this episode was going on at the same time, but that is actually not the case. Now, speaking of which, I do wonder something about this series, and I really do hope it does something that I always wished Inuyasha actually did, and that is exploring Kagome's world. Now, obviously, we know about the real world, you know, Kagome's world. It's our world. But I would love to see more of our characters from this old timeline, this old, you know, era, actually go into Kagome's world and get to kind of experience it. I would love to see the reactions to, like, Tokyo, get to experience, you know, just anime in general or something. It'd just be really cool. I would love to see more interactions in the other side of the world, you know, Kagome's original timeline. I really do hope this series explores that, because that was always something I felt lacked from the original Inuyasha, and I would love to have that again. I would love to have more stuff like that, but we'll see. So yeah, Inuyasha, in terms of, or Yashahime, my bad, I need to get used to calling it Yashahime, not Inuyasha. I'm very happy with this first episode. I know many, like I already said, might not be as excited as I am, because this is a series that's not going to be for everyone. Because if you have never watched the original, you're not going to be able to watch this, but on top of that, many might be on that standpoint of they didn't need this, we didn't need this at all. But I'm happy to have it. I'm glad it's coming out, because it's like, rewatching this reminded me of why I liked Inuyasha. Even seeing, you know, Tensaiga, you know, seeing, you know, Inuyasha use, you know, Mado, I think that's how you pronounce it, you know, the, like, the galaxy-looking blade. I remember how much struggle and sweat and tears it was for Shishomaru to kind of give that to Inuyasha. It's crazy to just see these little shout-outs, these nods to certain things that these characters overcame. And, you know, Shishomaru as well, standing on the roof and guarding Rin. And I'm just like, just seeing his character development, how he was very silent but doing his own thing. There's just so much about this episode that's really a nice little nod to the fans. And certain interactions of the characters, and every one of these characters, what they went through to be where they're at. You know, there's just so much good stuff. There's so much good content. And, as I said, big goofy smile when I was watching the episode. But, that's pretty much about it, though. I mean, like I said, this episode is just more of a reintroduction than anything else. But that is definitely warranted. It's definitely needed, because it's been, oh man, it's not been necessarily a decade, but it's been like 8 years plus, I think. It's been a long time since new Inuyasha content, so yeah, we definitely needed something like this for anyone that's just only watched the anime, and even then, even if you read the manga, it's even long ago, so I guess, yeah, it makes sense. We do need an episode like this to remind us of why we like it in the first place. But I'll leave it at that. I love you guys. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live, and if you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like, and if you want to get notified whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below, and with that, Chibi out.